This event happening today at this time is the first time that this have happened in allergies. And it's happening on the 300th anniversary of us as African being on the West Bank. It has also happened on the 400th anniversary of us being in America.
You know, people with good heart and some intelligence. So they have me, we went to different schools, the black school and the white school.
I am Ernestine Lily Anderson Trahan, and I'm the first African American judge elected to Second City Court in Algiers. And my great grandmother Ernestine, who is my aunt Valencia's grandmother also, she was a domestic worker around the corner on Delaware Street from where I now sit. So it's quite an honor and a privilege to have that history. Who remembers when I grew up here on Test Street in the 1200 block, if you rode your bike, now Algiers Point, now I work in Algiers Point, so it's a lot different from Algiers Point. I remember riding my bike to Opelousas Street and you turn around. Because you don't go to Algiers Point unless you're going to the ferry, coming back out. Or Whitney Bank, or the Buff Insurance, if you're my grandmother.
Right. Why was that?
Because it was very segregated. River Queen give a shout out on Tash and Newton. But that club right next door was a segregated club. What was the name of it? It was white and white. It was a barroom, but it was segregated. I remember passing an older white gentleman sitting outside. He would say, "Good evening," and ride your bike really fast. But it was very integrated but segregated, you know, in the neighborhood. And to see it changing now is interesting. I think of some high points. I think about going to school at All Saints, where my whole family went when it was All Saints, including my mother and my cousins. Everybody went to All Saints. And I remember a lady, you don't know her, but I'm going to say her name just because I should. Her name is Rosalind Lyles. She was my 4th grade teacher. My NTV is talking about education. Rosalind Lyles changed my life. She incorporated Black history into every subject. My mom would be like, "Is Rosalind doing Black history again?" Yes, she would incorporate it into science, into history, social studies, writing. Everything was, she'd incorporate Black history. Rosalind Lyles introduced me to beyond Martin Luther King, Harry Tubman. You know, we talked about Frederick Douglass, we talked about Phyllis Wheatley, we talked about so many incredible people that just gave me a yearning and an urge to learn more about my people and where I was from. And my family was always big on cultivating that. We weren't rich people, but our family brought us to any museum opening, anything cultural in the city. That's why I dragged my daughter out here off her phone today, so she'll know something besides Snapchat and Instagram. So I just remember the different parts of Algiers. And who remembers the Algiers killing right here in this block, where Miss Singleton lost her life, right here. Was shot in the bathtub.
But the reality is that even though our story does not begin there, it's a major part of our entryway into this space. So if we could speak just a bit on that aspect of our history.
Like I said, I'm a very spiritual person. A lot of people say I'm crazy, a lot of people say I'm old militant, a lot of people say a whole lot of outlaw, a gangster, a hoodlum, and I confess to be all of them.
82, and that nothing has grown there, and how they knocked it down, but it's that land is just, oh, the policeman drew a gun on my grandmother. My grandmother had a lot of rental properties. There was a white policeman that was killed on Newton Street. Nunez. I was in front of Tweed's house. The NOPD went crazy in Algiers. I mean, they killed this girl right here, the Singleton young lady, in this block. It's an empty lot now. My grandmother was working on a house. They came in, you know, it was a rental property, so she was doing her own painting and repairing because my grandma don't pay nobody to do stuff. And and they came and drew a gun on my grandmother, 60-some odd years old, painting. Came and kicked the door down, guns blazing. And I just was terrorized. So it's always changing and in flux, but there's a lot of blood on the street too.
Yeah.
Unfortunate.
Yeah. I wanna, that's a segue into, and then we'll kind of jump around, just so we know that memory is not linear.
That's right.
That it is a circular, spiraling kind of thing. So when we hear this blood on the ground, right, I want to ask Baba Malik to kind of bring in this aspect of maroonage and the maroon aspect in
For the spirituality in any event. In 1970, I was in a shootout with the police in the Desire Housing Project. But the day before that shootout, a lady came and put a prayer cloth on the wall and prayed. And said, if anybody in there pray, ain't nothing gonna happen to them. The next morning, over 100 police shot at us for over 20 minutes. Over 30,000 rounds of ammunition was fired in a wooden house. And we all walked out of there without a scratch. The day of the shootout that I was in was September the 15th, 1970. That was 7 years after the Birmingham bombing. So I truly believe that we had 4 little angels watching over us. And then the hurricane was about to hit. That day before, when it deviated, that was the 50th anniversary of the murder of Emmett Till. And I truly believe that it was his spirit that guided us, that protected us from being hit the way we should have. Why am I saying this? We all stuck together. At one time, this community, yes, it had maroons in it, and a maroon is just a runaway slave. There was 2 types of maroon. It was a petty maroon and a grand maroon. A petty maroon was a slave that ran away just to go to another plantation to see about his loved ones. He was gone, but he wasn't going to be gone over 30 days. He was willing to accept the whooping that he was going to receive when he came back, but he had a task to make sure that things are right with his family. A grand maroon was the maroon that we sing about during Mardi Gras, and that's Indian radio. To say, I won't bow down. I would rather die in the bayou than to live a life of a slave. A grand maroon didn't care about what the things that was going on with slavery, because he was learning how to survive. He had to survive not only the white slave hunters or the French or the Spanish slave hunters. He had to survive the slave hunters from the so-called people of color, Native Americans. Because as many say about that, and we pay homage to the Native Americans during Mardi Gras, all Native American tribes did not accept us as equal. Many of them would capture us and make us their slaves, or either sell us. The penalty for being a grand maroon was death. Captured by he was betrayed by a free person of color, and he was hung at Jackson Square on June 19th. To the Creole community, Juan Malo became the boogeyman. And to the African community, he became Juan Saint Malo. I came from that, what they call that wild Congo side that was made up of Maroons. Side that was made up that during when they was building here, that built the Varette Canal, which is now Whitney Boulevard, that ran from the Mississippi River all the way to the Barataria Bay. This canal became critical in our survival as a people. When your Cajuns came down here, we taught them how to survive in the bayou. You see all these Cajun movies about the alligator hunter, but I never heard of an alligator in France or in Canada. When they came down here, it was us, because they put a pen right next to the slave pen for the Cajuns, and they sent them out in the bayou to die. But and it wasn't like they was gonna get assistance from the Native Americans, because the Native Americans only thought of them as French. And the French was the invaders. We taught them how to survive. And in return, they gave us supplies that we couldn't normally get. That's the reason why Thomas Jefferson put the embargo on Haiti, because many of those that was Maroons also became Buccaneers. And as Buccaneers, they was integrated with the Cajun Buccaneers, which created the first, and at that time, the only integrated communities, where you got equal pay. Very first time in Louisiana. That's the reason why when we opened up our high schools over here, the first white high school was West Jeff. And they called them the West Jeff Buccaneers. And then when they opened up the first black, they called it L.B. Landry Buccaneers. That's our history. That's our history. It was our history of being here that created the only area, the first of the free towns that was known not only throughout Louisiana, but also in Sierra Leone. Because everybody know about Andrew Jackson and the Battle of New Orleans. But it also was the Battle of Chalmette. But it also was a battle of Algiers that was led by General Morgan, who lost, which is one of the reasons why I think that Morgan Street is the smallest street in Algiers. But it was when he lost, and as the British was coming down to Algiers, it was freeing slaves. And they would start calling it free settlement to free towns. Algiers was it. Now, everybody gives John McDonald credit for the schools, but he also brought down to Louisiana in the year after the great slave revolt of 1811. When the white slave owners was having what they call bayou nightmares. And a bayou nightmare was to wake up and you got 4 blacks over your head with tan knives. So they was ready to sell and get out. John McDonald came down from Baltimore and capitalized on this. And he brought what it was called a manumission plan. And under manumission, you worked as a slave for 15 years, and then you could get your freedom. He also brought down the belief that we can go back to Africa. This also was brought back by Bishop Henry Turner. For those who know about Robert Charles' rise and some of Robert Charles was a follower of Bishop Turner. That was still that maroon instinct that we can make it on our own, that we can survive as a people. The reason why we're in the condition that we are in now, because we don't have that belief. We have lost it. Yeah, I believe in me, but I don't believe in us. We have lost that us mentality. So now we are stuck in a dilemma that we're in now. But again, now, as a spiritual person, I know this. You have some young brothers that's coming up with that belief, with that same maroon spirit, that they will not bow down, that they will do what a black man is supposed to be doing. That's willing to cut the slave mentality and understand that if you want respect, you got to also give respect. And if you don't have no respect for yourself or for your people, you can't expect nobody else to have respect for you. We are a great people. We have survived the hardship that no other race have survived and excelled. The lifespan of the first slaves that was brought over here in 1619 was 5 years. Now the French have gone under the king, which was the King Plantation. They are gone. The French that controlled under the Revolution, they are gone. Your Germans that named it Gretna, they are gone. Your Italians, they are gone. But we are still here. And it's at a critical moment in our history. Because if we're going to continue to be here, then it's going to be up on us. Those in this room, those that's willing to say, well, hey, I don't care what type of consequence have to come. We're going to bear this together, but we're going to make sure that our children have the opportunity to live in this city that we have sacrificed for. It is time for us to make sure that our history is preserved. We cannot allow our oppressors to determine our history. We have to make sure that our true history is told. And once it is told, I truly believe that the spirit of our ancestors will end its grieving and start resting with the joy of knowing that this sacrifice wasn't in vain.
I am that which walks with you to the torrential rain.
They would pull that rope and lure the alligator out, and they would gut it. They had the alligator skin. Well, if the baby just happened to, they pulled it out in time, the baby happened to survive that attack, it was put back on the bank of the river or thrown back out to the swamp to be caught again. Sometimes they would even just throw the babies in, you know, and let the alligators get them. So our children were used as alligator bait, and that's recorded history. Which should be motivation enough for us to really get off our duffs and do something, right? Back in 1788, back in 1786, when we were under Spanish control, we had a governor by the name of Esteban Rodriguez Miro. And during that day, when the African women would go out into the general public, they would adorn their hair with things like beads and jewelry and feathers and flowers. And it was said that they looked so beautiful. It was said that the African women had the good hair. Now, of course, you know, if we say somebody has good hair today, we're talking about something totally different, right?
But this is an unapologetic space, right? So you also, I remember you were saying how black men couldn't even be garbage men.
Exactly. They couldn't pick up, can you imagine that? Couldn't pick up the garbage. Why? Because it was a good job. You would have been able to afford to take care of your family. You know, you would have had to have some help. You couldn't do that. So later on it came up because of people like you.
That's all I've been dealing with. Costumes, free costumes, it's buying material. And I'll make them. No charge at all.
Wow.
And God has wonderfully blessed me with my children. And God has wonderfully blessed me that my son made the opera singer that they did not accept it, but he made it. And I thank him. And whenever he comes to town, he does make his presentation. He went to the college away for the opera singer. And he's been singing all those years, all those days. And I'm happy that we did contribute something to LJ's for our youth people.
That's right.
You still contribute. When he comes to town, he will ladies will call and recognize him and give him a chance to experience his experience made in the
Ancestors, please bring to me when my life is almost gone. Hear my cry, hear my call. Take my hand, let's not fall. Take my hand, ancestors, and lead me on.